The Scarlets, founded in 2003, 15 years ago, they are one of 4 professional teams in Wales. Representing West and North Wales, they hold a large catchment area. This has proved difficult as attendances at Parc y Scarlets have been poor, especially considering across the border in the Viva Premiership, attendances have been soaring for a few years. There are many reasons to why attendances at Parc y Scarlets are so poor. According to Wales Online, reasons include ticket prices, tournament playing, inconsistent weekend teams, poor results, poor performance. They're just a number of factors to why West Walians fans do not go to Parc y Scarlets. At the time, Richard Cockerell, who was Leicester manager, now Edinburgh manager, referenced the dwindling crowds in Parc y Scarlets when discussing the future of Welsh star Owen Williams. He went on to say, with respect to all Welsh regions, there's not going to be an occasion with 24,000 people against the European champions and be good enough to beat them and be the centre of attention of the performance of the team to win the game. As mentioned, a big reason to why attendances at Parc y Scarlets are so poor are because of the competitions they play in. One competition is called the Anglo-Welsh Cup. Heard of it? Didn't think so. This is where Welsh sides put out development sides, so they're basically playing kids, where the English play their full-grown internationals and senior players. This often results in hammerings from the English teams, which would obviously put people off from going to watch games. Another embarrassment for the Pro 14 League is the scheduling. Over the weekend where Wales played England, Wales had 12 Scarlets in the team. On the same weekend, Scarlets played Treviso in a match when they ended up losing, which could provide pivotal in the race towards the league. Next weekend, Wales play Ireland, and on the same weekend, Wales's best team, the Scarlets, and Ireland's best team, Leinster, play together, in which many internationals will not be playing. Well, the problem in the Welsh game at the moment is at grassroots level. Many community clubs across Wales have folded due to lack of player numbers, and this is no different in the Scarlets region. I'm going to be going out and visiting 2 teams in the Scarlets region. I'm very intrigued to find out how the relationship is with the Scarlets, especially considering the grassroots game in Wales at the moment. The first team I'm going to be going out to visit is Fishguard and Gynnock, a local team of mine. I'm very intrigued to find out how the relationship is with the Scarlets. The second team I'm going to be visiting and speaking to is Llandovery RFC, a famous team in Wales. I'm very intrigued to find out how their relationship is with the Scarlets, especially considering the players that they've produced for the Scarlets and for Wales.
Cool, so the Scarlets have been really good in terms of engaging with Fishguard and Gynnock RFC. One thing, as you mentioned, are player visits. So we've had player visits come down to like local registration days, or focus about increasing participation. For example, helping out the mini section. We've also had community engagement, so like sort of charity and public events we've organised. For example, last year we had a Guinness Book of World Record attempt in the school here, and the Scarlets came down and supported that. And then furthermore, they're just really good at engaging with us as a club, working with our coach and coordinator, myself as a hub officer, just trying to get the most out of the Scarlets region. I think participation is probably the key factor when you talk about sort of player numbers and grassroots rugby. In our community, rugby is probably the more dominant sport. However, there is competition from other sports such as football. Having spoken to a few colleagues about this, I think the main thing affecting our participation, one will be social challenges. For me, working in a school, I find that some kids might not even have the equipment to take part in rugby. It was probably an inexpensive sport, so stuff like gum shields and rugby boots and pads and proper kit and stuff they might not have. So in our school, for instance, we run like a sort of a second-hand sort of where boys drop off old kit and it can be recycled. Other problems facing is maybe sort of the cost. So maybe not in a school but in the rugby club, it is a cost and it's a commitment to run teams. Most teams have 3-4 coaches and they all need food provided after the games, and the rugby club do that. And when you get to youth and senior level, they have to pay for buses, and so there's also a cost to it. And then maybe the other thing, maybe a lack of interest as sort of times moves on. Rugby's becoming a less popular trend in society, and that might be another thing affecting it. I think they do a really good job trying to cover such a large attachment area. Like the Scarlets region, it comes all the way to Fishguard and Llanelli and then all the way up to Aberystwyth. It's a very large attachment area. So I believe they're trying to do the best they can do. However, it would be nice if the Scarlets had a more prominent representation maybe in Pembrokeshire, for example, maybe having like a sub-hub across the region. For example, it would be quite nice maybe like a pre-season game. The Scarlets maybe played in Narberth or Haverfordwest, just a pre-season one, just get that badge out there, because at the moment they are quite restricted to Llanelli and that area. I think more recently the Scarlets have sort of they have evolved. Like for example, last year they won the Pro 12, but maybe 3-4 seasons ago they were maybe it was Ospreys and Blues on top, and then Scarlets and Dragons were fighting for that sort of fourth, third best. But more recently, Scarlets have identified their own ethos, and they're playing an entertaining brand of rugby at the moment, and that's probably a credit to the coaching staff and the players. I think they've not tried to emulate anyone, they've stuck by their philosophy, they've tried to play that traditional Welsh rugby with sort of flair and sort of guile, and it's exciting. I think that's really paid off for them, and I know one thing the Scarlets are really keen on is trying to promote within, so they have like a really good academy system, and they back the youths to play. I think Fishguard and Gaelic have a really positive relationship with the Scarlets in terms of attending matches. Like we ran a club trip the other day to Scarlets v Bath in the European game, and in fairness they offered a really good package. All under 16s went free, and in past they've offered us discount on buses, so they have made a really good effort to try and get out to us. And they offer other promotions when you go to a match day, for example pre-match parade, guard of honour, you get to play on the pitch at half time. More recently, one of our players, he was a mascot for, I think it was the Scarlets Treviso game or something, so he was the front page advert for it. So no, they are really good at reaching out and opening out, but it's just a case of sort of limited opportunities, especially when Llanelli's so far away. Like the other day it took us 2 hours to get there on a bus, so it's not something you could do on a regular basis really. I think sometimes they offer these like promotions like on a Friday night and stuff like that, or what's ideal for some, but like seeing that the Scarlets region is so broad and so wide, it's going to take a lot of travel for like someone from Fishguard to go to someone like Llanelli. It'll probably be easier for someone from Cardiff to go and watch the Scarlets than it would be someone from the Scarlets region to go watch them. It's just because they are quite far afield, so it would like in an ideal world it would be quite nice if they could spread their games out across the region. Obviously you can't do it for every game, but it would be one game in every county outside, and they'll probably build up a better following maybe. But I think maybe it's the distance, and just there's such a large attachment area, it's quite challenging. I think it's quite a chicken and egg question really. Like I think it's positive like if a player wants to play outside the region, mainly because the regions are limited to how many players they can cater for. You've got 4 teams, and so say you have a hooker in each team, that's 4 hookers, and then you have maybe 2 reserves. You're only catering towards 12 players there, and those 12 players will be contesting for an international place. So there's not really enough competition for places there. So if a player looks outside and wants to go further afield, like they're more likely to develop professionally and personally. Like you see in France, they offer these large sums of money, and obviously that's going to cater towards the players' better welfare and career. And then you've also got in stuff like England and France, they have a more competitive league because they have a relegation system. So teams are gonna play a higher standard because there's that competitive edge. Sometimes you watch a Scarlets game and it's Scarlets v Leinster for instance, and they might put out 2 academy teams on a Pro 12 game, and like you don't recognise half the players, but that may be because they got a big European game next week and they both decided to rest it. So the league doesn't always cater towards a competitive edge. So those players that sort of aspire to play at an intense level, like out of France or England, you can't blame them for going. There was that boy now who's playing for Scotland, and something Hamilton.
Yeah, Luke Hamilton. Yeah.
Luke Hamilton. He could get into the Blues side because obviously they can only cater for so many players, and then he's gone out to France, now to Leicester, and then he played against All Blacks for Scotland, and he couldn't get in the Cardiff Blues team. So I think that's an example of where you're limited as a region, and you're set up then to how many players you can cater for. But then I do see the flip side of it. I do see what the union is trying to do. Ultimately, if they have the best players in the league, so like you said, you've got Hibbard, you've got Moriarty, maybe George North going to the Dragons, hopefully that will raise the standard of the league, the quality of the players, the quality of the game, make it more attractive, get more punters in through the door, it'll be more successful. But that being said, everyone has to buy into it, and you do risk then, not exposing those younger players then who, who might risk losing further afield. But that's the decision they have to make then.
I think currently it's probably in as healthy state as it's ever been, given the Scarlets' recent success against Toulon and previous to that, the Bath game. I think the rugby they're playing now is a template that Wales could follow, to be honest with you. And at long last, it's regional rugby seems to be proving successful, particularly the fact that they're doing it predominantly with homegrown talent. The relationship, I would say, is continually growing and improving. I think it's as good now as it's ever been. We're very fortunate in having a head coach, Eros Evans, who works very closely with Coleg Cigar. He's the head of rugby at Coleg Cigar. Our first team squad train at the barn in Llanelli every Tuesday evening. They also attend gym sessions in Llanelli and in another couple of venues in Croissants, in Evolution and elsewhere. And on Thursday evenings we train here in Llandovery, but we do host as well regional A games here, and Scarlets themselves have played pre-season matches here. So I think the relationship is continually growing, and long may it continue. We are feeding players through from Llandovery to the Scarlets, so that's if you like an improving cycle, an ongoing one, hopefully. Well, historically, France and England probably been the most successful clubs in the European Cup. Scarlets hopefully will break that pattern this year, but definitely there's a need to ensure that the development pathway works. And if I can give you an example of Wyn Jones, then if you like, he's come through our junior drovers setup here, played for our youth team, our second team, progressed to the first team. I think he played 94 games, and then he's been picked up by the Scarlets. Since then he's been capped by Wales, and he's on that sort of pathway that others will now, hopefully, in Llandovery, youngsters will try to replicate. So if you roll that out across all the other clubs within the Scarlets region and look at how many players, homegrown players they've developed, who are now performing on the European and the Welsh stage, I think it only augurs well for the future. It does go to show that if you invest in Welsh talent, it's sometimes better than buying overseas talent. And long term for Wales, shortage of money in terms of other countries, that is the way forward, I think. I think currently they're as well represented again as they ever have been. You've got David Hughes, Wales under-20s, who's currently in the Scarlet squad, is a homegrown hooker. Just mentioned Wyn Jones in the previous question as another example for you. So there's two who've come through the junior Dover setup. They're currently in the squad, along with the likes of George North, previously Rodri Jones, who've come through, Emyr Phillips, come through Llandovery College and the junior Dover setup. So it is important, I think, that we continue to have those links. In the initial years, I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think people bought into regional rugby. The traditionalists were used to the old meritocracy of the merit table clubs, etc. So regional rugby is taking time to establish and grow, but with every generation that comes through, a lot of the younger generation are only used to the regions. They don't remember the old format. So as time progresses and has progressed, regional rugby has grown, and strength and support for the Scarlets in the locality has certainly grown, especially, as I said, with the inclusion of Llandovery grown players, and also players that the Scarlets have placed with Llandovery that we've helped develop, and there are too many of those to mention.
Yeah.
Again, I think regional rugby has struggled to attract crowds, probably through the style of rugby they've played and the results, the fact that they haven't been that successful. But as you've seen, again, repeating myself perhaps, but in recent times, Scarlets have shown that if you play a particular brand of rugby, which is their model, which is their template, you will attract the crowds, especially if it's winning rugby.
Yeah.
And I think it's shown way forward for Wales to follow the same template. So I think success does breed success, and if you can beat the best, as they've shown they can do by beating Toulon, 2 times champions, I think that in itself shows that on the day they can beat anybody. Yes, although I think there's always scope for improving marketing of tickets. Sometimes Llandovery will play and then the Scarlets will play a couple of hours later, which makes it very difficult for people who are involved with Llandovery Rugby Club to travel to watch the game in Parc y Scarlets. And if I can use last Saturday as an example, we had Leinster A versus Scarlets Premiership Select. We had a very sparse crowd here because all the focus was on the Scarlets playing Toulon 2 or 3 hours later. So that's the issue I find with attending Scarlets game.
Yeah.
Personally, and a lot of Llandovery supporters find that the clash doesn't allow them perhaps to go and visit a team that they would otherwise support if there wasn't a fixture happening. Plus also television, most games are televised these days, and that is a double-edged sword. It brings in the television money, but I do think it also detracts from a viewing audience that would otherwise not see the game unless they saw it live.
Yeah.
I think the coaching, I think Wayne Pivac and significantly Stephen Jones coming in, not to forget people like Byron Hayward and Johan Cunningham. I think as a team they work well. Stephen Jones, I think, has brought in a different dimension to the back play, and I think they focus heavily on handling skills, on playing with the ball. Their fitness is up there. They've managed to get themselves an excellent pack of forwards, something perhaps they may not have had 5 years or more ago, but their front 5 now and their back row, most of them are in the Welsh squad, along with most of the back line. So you can say that's the spine of the Welsh team. So I think the style of play they're encouraged to play, the fact that they like support play, they keep the ball alive whenever at all costs, and they've got a quite a wide repertoire of ways of breaking down defences. So quick ball, key, very good half-backs who can control the game. They're an all-round very good side.
Yeah.
I've mentioned about how fragile the grassroots game in Welsh rugby is, how Welsh rugby could be in line for a major shakeout. This has been decided as there needs to be a right structure going forward. Below regional level, it's crucial that the structure is right, as the Scarlets rely on clubs like Fishguard and Llandovery to produce players. Therefore, the WRU have invited players, coaches, supporters, committee men and the general public to complete a short survey with the feedback set to help shape the way ahead for the Welsh grassroots game. Despite all the talk of the Welsh rugby shakeout, the Scarlets have become the talk of European rugby. Following the remarkable wins over Bath and Toulon, the Scarlets have secured their place in the knockout stages for the first time in 11 years. However, this hasn't happened all of a sudden. So what has been the secret of the success internationally? Extremely good skill set. The coaches have had a huge part to play in this, as over the last couple of seasons the players' skill sets have improved remarkably. The relationship. There's a great culture within the Scarlets at the moment between the coaches and the players. Signings. The signings that the Scarlets have made have not been top end names, but they have made a huge impact at Parc y Scarlets. They've also identified local talent at the Scarlets, and also there's no more fear factor. The Scarlets overcame a huge psychological barrier last year, defeating both Leinster and Munster away from home, and also demolishing Bath this season. The Scarlets have consistently had poor attendances at Parc y Scarlets. This has mainly been down to the poor performances of the team. However, the last couple of seasons have seen a change in fortune. The Scarlets won the Pro 12 Championship in 2017, defeated Munster in Dublin, and also this season made the last state of the European Cup quarterfinals for the first time in 11 years. The success that they've been having lately has been highlighted by the surge of sales, particularly ticket sales for the La Rochelle game. After the initial sale for season ticket holders, the last 900 tickets went on general sale a few weeks ago and were snapped up within an hour, with hundreds of fans queuing in the rain at Parc y Scarlets from as early as 6 AM. This highlights how important the success of the team is for bringing in a crowd at Parc y Scarlets. Thank you for watching my news story, and I hope to see you down at Parc y Scarlets very soon. Thank you.